All right, hey, hello everyone. How you doing? John Sudol here, John Sudol Acting Studio and Center for the Language of the Face, and I want to welcome you here today for the Q&A on. If you've seen the webinar, you know at the end of the webinar I said that there'd be a Q&A today on Saturday, and it's kind of early here in Los Angeles, almost 9:30. It's for us actors. 9:30 is fairly early. If you're just joining us late, there'll be a replay of this, so it'll be up there if you missed anything. You can probably just rewind and start from the beginning. All right, so we're going to be talking about anything to deal with the emotional life. Here, John Sudol Acting Studio and Center for the Language of the Face, and I want to welcome you here today. Hang on a second, I have a little technical difficulty. If you've seen the webinar, you know at the end of the webinar I said today on Saturday, early here in Los Angeles. And we are going live, and I now figured out what that is. Okay, so I got two streams going at the same time. Cool. I know for a fact that we are live, and helping us out right now is going to be Giovanna Ortiz. And Giovanna, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Good morning.
Good morning. Giovanna is a very talented actress who has worked with me for the past, I say, what, 4 years, 4.5 years?
Yeah, about that. Can you believe it?
Almost. And so anything, she's going to be handling the any questions that come over in the chat. So to make this beneficial to everybody, if you have a question, if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see the chat section. Please enter your questions in there. And the questions could be anything regarding the emotional alignment intensive I have coming up, or anything to deal with the creating and revealing of emotions. So anything in that area is fair game. So I know we had some questions, right, Giovanna, that came in that was emailed to us, so we want to start with some of those questions. First, this whole presentation, we're going to go for about 30 minutes, so get your questions in. So you have a question, Giovanna?
Yeah, there were quite a few that actually came in via email. So one of the first ones, is it enough to be honest?
Enough to be honest. I mean, honesty is a good starting place. And, you know, when I hear this a lot, you know, from actors saying, well, I'm an honest actor. But the truth of that is you don't know you're an honest actor really until somebody, the viewer, tells you you are. And I think I covered a little bit of this in the webinar, but again, there's two truths that an on-camera actor especially has to be concerned with: the inner truth and the outer truth. When the inner truth is all about the sensations you're experiencing, all about the impulses that you have. When all your thoughts are in alignment with the character's thoughts, and all your impulses are in alignment with that, then that feels right. It feels truthful. However, as important, or sometimes even more important, especially when it comes to the auditioning process, that it is the outer truth. And the outer truth is how that inner truth manifests itself. So if I don't see those changes that are coming from your thoughts, I don't see it on your face, if I don't hear it in your voice or see it in your body, then I don't know what you're feeling. So it's not enough just to say, hey, I felt that. Hey, you know, I felt really connected. Because, you know, I tell you what, my years of casting, I've seen people walk out thinking, yeah, I just nailed that. And the truth of the matter is, they weren't even close. I hadn't a clue to what they were trying to accomplish. On the other hand, we feel much more truthful when our actions are very demonstrative, when our actions, like for the action of yelling, if you yell in a very angry way, you will feel angry. However, if you're trying to yell in a very quiet, subtle way, you may not feel as angry. So, and if we take away anything from the body, anything away from the voice, emotionally, if we're created it through the body and the voice, then the problem is that you begin to de-intensify the emotional experience. So you have to have two truths. You have to be cognizant of both these truths, the inner and the outer truth. Hopefully that is clear. So honesty, great. That centers us. That makes us feel we are connected. But we have to make sure that that inner life is reflected outwardly for the viewer to read. Well, so if you have a question, make sure you in that comment section, Giovanna is monitoring that. So anything comes in, we will address that. Giovanna, we have another question?
Yes. So in regards to your approach, is this approach inside out, and or is it outside in?
Or outside in?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that came from. Yeah. The answer to that is yes. It is inside out and it is outside in. It doesn't really matter. You see, when we become emotional, that you can become emotional either by a thought, remembering something that made you emotional, or if you begin to change some emotional muscles, you will also begin to feel the emotion. However, just feeling it again is not enough. On the outside, if you begin to, remember when, during the webinar I asked you to move your jaw. And as you moved your jaw and then you began to press down your teeth together, you began to feel the beginning of anger. You felt your heart begin to speed up. You felt your eyes locking on. And you began to experience the emotion. Now the next step is the brain wants to know, well, why are we getting angry? So that information that we have to supply the brain at this point here is why you're angry. That's in your circumstances. So as you begin the process, if you move an emotional muscle group, you begin to feel it, then you need to justify it. However, on the opposite side, internally, if you are trying to connect to the character's inner life, and you think about it, and nothing changes externally, then odds are you'll get stopped in that emotional growth, because we are all wired when we experience emotion that these muscle groups, these emotional muscle groups, come into play. So if they don't come into play, what ends up happening is that you get stuck. So now you got to do something really big to jump out of that, and now you got two modes that you're operating under. One is I'm starting to feel it. Two, I'm out of control with that emotion. So if any of you out there have experienced those, those two gears, I'm starting to feel, but I don't really feel that much. I'll kill you, for example, in anger. And then it's because you are inhibiting the changes, or you're unaware, or that trigger that you're using isn't strong enough to motivate the emotion or provoke the emotion. So you have to, whether it doesn't matter if you start inwardly or outwardly, there has to be a reason why it's happening. That is the key to being truthful, the motivation. Why am I experiencing this? So you might intellectually know you're experiencing it, but if it doesn't change you inwardly and outwardly, it's not going to be of service to you. Anything you want to add on to that, Javon? Or did I say it all?
Well, I was just thinking of the times where it's like you think you're feeling something and you think you're expressing it, and oftentimes how often we've seen actors come in and be quite surprised that what was in their head, what they were thinking, was not registering, and those moments where they have that like awareness, like, wow, I felt so much more.
And how many of these emotional screen tests do you think that you have?
Over the years, I would say upwards of a few hundred myself alone. So upwards of a few hundred, like 300 to 400, I've probably seen. That's just me.
In this emotional screen test, and you've seen from the starting place where actors were feeling really quite intensely.
Yes.
But you saw, when they saw what they were doing, it was like, I can't believe it. I was feeling that so intensely, but nothing is changing on me. Nobody would know. And then watching, I think you have a favorite actor who just changed from the very first initial emotional screen test, and then as soon as he started doing the work, his whole face opened up. Remember him?
There's several of those cases where, and what John is talking about is that first class. It's the screen test, where you just begin to see what you are expressing and not expressing, and seeing the progression after, you know, the first few weeks, and incorporating what you teach us to do, and it's night and day. It really truly is. And I just think it's so amazing for those actors specifically when, you know, week 4 or 5, they're like, oh my gosh. Well, it's also when you do the assessment and others in the class will raise their hand to see what they're feeling, and how many times when you ask, are you getting anything at all, how many hands go up, and it's an awareness to the actor. It's like, wow, I'm trying to reach the viewer and I'm not doing it well if they're not understanding what I'm feeling and thinking. So
Yeah.
those are the moments I think where, you know, actors are just like blown away.
Well, it's also that happened at the SAG Weekend Conservatory a couple of weeks ago, where we did the emotional screen test, and I asked people, you know, based on what they were seeing that the actor was creating. Their job was to create the emotion as intensely as they possibly could, and then it was like the opening moment of the movie. The camera finds you in that emotional state. And when each actor did it, and I turned to the crowd, it must have been 40, 50 people, and I said, well, you know, what do you think they're experiencing it? And there was all kinds of emotion popped out. And then I asked them, okay, how many people can recognize it? And very few hands would come up, and how many people are confused? And the majority. And it was just mind-blowing for the actor to, you know, to experience that, going, here, I'm walking in for an audition, I think I'm doing this, but I'm not. And you walk out, you know, you might feel an energy of feeling good about it because you felt internally slightly moved by the emotion. But there is a big difference between what we're feeling that we create and what an actual experience is. So I want you guys to know that there is different levels of intensity, and all we have to do in our imaginary world is to experience that emotion slightly, and it feels like a lot. This is why the emotional screen test is incredibly important, because it'll tell you how effective your tools are. It'll tell you how effectively you are using your triggers. And also, it really kind of shows any distortion that you might have. Are you an internalizer, an externalizer? Is there something about your face that is distorting what you wish to create, or any one of those 7 distortions? Cool. We have anything coming in, or do you have another question for me?
Well, I think just jumping off of what you just said about your triggers and how important it is for them, you know, to work. So do you want to talk a little bit about that, how often you see when triggers aren't really being used properly?
Well, we have to go back to the definition of, you know, emotions. And emotions are reactions to things that we deem to be important to our welfare in a positive or negative way, and the key word being important. And we don't realize a couple of things about the trigger. One, that trigger that we're trying to use to create, say, sadness, really just makes us feel disgust, or it may not produce anything because it's no longer important to us right now. So you may have gotten really angry at someone, and then you try to recall that and going, you know what, it just doesn't work, because it's no longer important to you. So understanding the emotions and what triggers them, you can always keep your themes, you know, or the trigger you're going to use. You can tell right away, is that a hot enough trigger, because you can begin to feel the changes in that. When we're using, there was something else that you were saying that I wanted to talk about triggers, and it was a really good point. I'd really like to share it with you.
It was really good. It was essentially when an actor sees for themselves that a trigger isn't really triggering an emotion, or that it's not really, you know, surging up for them. Mm-hmm. Again, I think you just touched on that when you have the wrong.
It's just it's no longer important, or there's some distortion that you have that's preventing your psychology. Also, we have to identify when we're using a trigger, the reason why Stanislavski stopped the pursuit of the emotional work, the emotional recall, is that what he found out was that sometimes an actor was angry over a specific emotional recall. Sometimes they were sad. Sometimes they had a judgment towards it. And that's why, also, the other thing was that his actors were getting exhausted by staying in this emotional state over and over again. So what we have learned since Stanislavski is that it really depends on what aspect of any event that you're coming from to understand that this aspect of the event is what made me angry, not the total event. So have you guys out there, have you ever had a conversation with somebody, maybe even give them a compliment, and they started to get irritated or annoyed with you? And you're going, wow, I just gave you a compliment. Why are you getting angry? Was it the way you said the compliment? That's what they might be reacting to. Or was it just you, that you're giving that compliment that caused them to judge it or get angry about it? Was where you gave that comment. So understanding what aspect of any event, if it's worthy of a reaction, we have to understand what we are actually reacting to. I have a video on this, on the 3 parts of a reaction. Just like an action has 3 parts, that is, what am I doing, why am I doing it, and how will I do it? A reaction also has 3 parts that you have to be very, very clear about in order to come up with the right emotional response, which is, what am I reacting to? Now, why am I reacting to that? And the how, if you know what and why, if you understand emotions, you will understand your choices. And that's the difference between a okay actor and a brilliant actor, because a brilliant actor can see the problem from different angles, different aspects, and choose the most interesting one. So, yeah, hopefully I nailed that question down.
Well, I mean, you're talking about how Stanislavski, stopped the pursuit of emotions because of what he did or did not know at that point in time, which was 75 plus years ago. However, what can you talk about a little bit more with Chekhov, and perhaps how his work has influenced what you currently are embarking on?
Absolutely. The one thing I noticed years ago when I started working with Chekhov and his method, his theology, was that, yeah, I could begin to mold my body into a certain way. Certain psychological gestures began to make me feel differently. However, I mean, that was like kind of the seed going, wow, this is really cool. Now, is this inside out, outside in? And no matter how you work, here's the bottom line. It has to be, to the viewer, appear to be truthful. If it's not, I don't care what technique you use, it's not going to come out the way you've intended. So what the difference between Chekhov and work language of the face is that I have now honed it down into something much more subtle. Something much more just that will do the same thing as a psychological gesture, because once you begin to move, say, an emotional muscle, you begin to feel differently. You begin to perceive the world differently. You begin to perceive the person you're talking to differently. Because when we experience an emotion, the brain only gives us the information to justify why we're experiencing this emotion. So you begin to look at the world from that particular perspective. For example, if I asked you all out there, you just lift up your balloon, make the sound of it. Now, if you look around your room, just slightly, you begin to feel a little distaste for things. And if you look at something, maybe that is a little bit of a mess in the room, there's a disbelief, a distaste. Somebody says something that's offensive. So that moving it just starts a whole process, not just on your face, but in your brain. And then your brain's preparing you to take some kind of action. If you know what a character feels, what emotion they're feeling, you know what they want to do. The question will always be, why don't they take that action? Or why do they need to modify what they're feeling in some way? And all these things that we're talking about, the first start, the starting place of this is to understand the emotions, understand what they feel like, understand what they're compelling you to do. You have to understand how you're personally revealing emotion to see, are you distorting what you're feeling? Because we need to know that, because if you know that you're an internalizer, meaning you feel more intensely than you reveal, you have to understand that. Because if you add anything to it, any changes in your body, your face, your voice, you will feel like you're overacting. You'll feel like a clown, like everybody's reading you. And the truth of the matter is, and you know this if you're an internalizer, nobody has a clue to what you feel. If you're an externalizer, meaning that you express more than you actually feel, then you got to begin to experience what these emotions actually feel like, so you know you're there. If your face is so busy that you got so many messages that are coming out on, the viewer doesn't know which one to follow. So having control, because we are storytellers, and we're telling a very specific story. We're not telling 28 stories. We're telling one specific story about one specific person, and it's you who's involved in that story. So I think we're getting close to having this Q&A. Guys, if you're out there and you're just watching and not participating, I can't answer your questions. I think there was one last question about somebody had about online training.
Yes, yes. Working with you live versus working with you online, and how does that work, and what are the benefits of each? And
you know what I think is so different about what I'm doing? You can take a lot of classes online, but what you're doing is getting a replay of the class. They'll talk to you, even to give you some suggestions on what to do. But the online classes that I do are live and interactive. It's just like we're sitting here now. If your photo was up on my screen, I would see you. I'd see your full face, and everything is on camera, because we're talking about on-camera work here. So is it better to do it live? You know, I guess there's nothing better than the live experience in saying that if you are from New York, Boston, New Orleans, or in the Atlanta area, I want you to email me. You can respond here. There's a green button on here which request info. Send me an email. Let me know where you are, because I'm going to be coming back in sometime in September, and I will be doing some live events. And I'll have an early registration discount, so I want you to get that. So make sure you can also email me, john@languageoftheface.com. But everything we do online, we're also getting feedback from the other participants in the class. They can get to see you as well. Everything remains private. Only the people who are in class get to see the video. You get a copy of the video. Everything we did, everything I said, every reaction you made, you get a copy of that to play back. I also have all the videos that you can, on your own, you can watch these videos, practice, because this is like learning an instrument, like learning a language. You have to practice. You have to put the time in. But a few simple shifts in how you are expressing can mean the difference between getting a call back, not getting a call back, booking the job, not booking the job, and getting that dynamic, emotional response you want. It's going to send your on-camera career soaring. So that being said, we're going to begin to close this Q&A up. Giovanna, is there any last-minute things that...
let me see here. I kind of lost track of time, and I was thinking of all these questions on my own. So now that
sometimes a half hour really isn't enough. But if anybody out there has a question, comment. If you're watching this video, I'll put up a replay. If you're watching the video, make a comment. We are on that. We will check the comments and respond to you and give you the answer you need. If it's a long, involved answer, we'll set up a time to do a video conference together so I can watch your face. And it's much easier for me to talk to you if I can see your face than the other way around. So that being said, anything? How many times am I going to say that being said? That being said? Any last minute questions?
Well, my questions I would go back to, because when we just did that little exercise of looking around the room with a distaste. I mean, I played along, and that absolutely, changed me in the way I perceived the room. And I thought, I mean, I know it's really cool and effective. However, it looked really subtle, and it looked really like as I watched you do it, it was subtle. It wasn't anything over the top, overacting, not believable. And for the people who exactly, thank you. So for those people who might believe that that's what it is, and quite the contrary, and how subtle and effective it is on the screen.
It is inside out, outside in. It's all about, when you get down to it, it is about telling the truth. It is an art of deception. So our job is to connect to the, as Stella Adler said, that the actor has to connect to the lies and turn those lies into truth. Carol Klorman, noted director, he says, good acting is lies like truth. So bottom line, we have to take the experience of life and now filter it through us, going, yes, I feel that. That last step, what's coming out here. And having control over that, because as an actor, you also have to be a technician. I need to see that a little bit more intense, less intense. I need to have you do it hanging from the trampoline. I need you to get the corner of your eye right on the edge of the light there so I can get the right lighting on your face and do all that work. And the actor who's only concerned with the internal truth, I feel, is a very, very selfish actor, because it doesn't matter if you get it or not. I feel it. So you can do all your acting alone, but we are in the emotional communication business. That's what we do. That's the emotional art form, the sharing, the live vessel that we are going to tell the story with. So yes, it can be absolutely subtle, and our work that we do is the creating and revealing of emotion from the most subtle to the extreme. So that's what we will be covering in this upcoming emotional alignment intensive. It's 2 days on the bottom here. I'm going to tell you right now that the class has been evaluated by many people, and that class I could easily charge $300–400 for it. In fact, I have. But I'm not going to do that to you guys. I understand that across the country everything is different. So I have a really good, two things. One, I have a discount still up there for you guys if you're interested in the upcoming class. It's almost like a 20–30% discount off the class. Close to it, but don't hold me to it. There's a number there. Also, you'll get all the videos that we special bonuses for you to check out. So if you click that green button on there that says Emotional Alignment Intensive, it'll take you over there. There's also on that page, if you haven't seen my 10 Power Insights for Actors, there you can go to that and it'll take you to a link where you can download, see the video. It's all about the action, the reaction, and you as an actor in this business and what you need to do to protect yourself. So there's a lot of good stuff on that. Just click that button right now. Also on that button, there's a $3.99. You can get my ebook. It's $5.99 on Amazon. It's $13.95 for the paperback. But right now, during this webinar, I'm going to make it available to you for $3.99. And it's a cool read. It gets really into depth to everything we've been talking about and understanding about. So that's coming up. Hopefully you guys will venture over there, check it out. And if you have any questions at all, you can contact me about that. Again, if you are from New York, Boston, New Orleans, and Atlanta, let me know if you're interested in coming to one of my live weekend intensives. So Giovanna, why don't you say bye?
Bye, everybody. That was fun, John. Thank you.
Let me know, and I'm going to end this broadcast now. So be good, be successful.